This is the Farm Hop Life Men's Forum number 13. This is the wrong notes. I am Matt Derosier of a Farm Hop Life, and tonight we have. Go ahead, Chris.
Christopher Vidal.
Of.
SecureFarm, SecureCoop.
Nice. And also we have Joseph. Introduce yourself, Joseph.
Joseph Smith, not a Mormon. The Smith Homestead.
Excellent. Where are you both located?
Hollister, Florida, outside of Gainesville.
Nice.
Yep.
I'm coming in from the Gulf Coast of Mississippi.
Gulf Coast, Mississippi. Nice. Very good. So, Joseph, what we do we share personal events first. Like, what's something that was notable in the last week that you're like, hell yeah, that was good, or maybe not so good. That's fine too. Chris, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, it was a slow week for me. I wasn't doing it. I've been dragging my butt all week.
You're not in
hold on a second.
Peter Cannon yet? No.
My kid's laptop popped up. No, it was a slow week, but I did work a lot on the SecureCoop infrastructure. Got migrating to a few different servers and setting up database failover and setting up web server failover and getting that working right. And so that with a database that like that, you can have your database fail, completely crash, and it's backed up to the second on the other server. So you just go in and flip a switch and it flips over. So
nice.
Yeah, encryption with all that. So even though I was kind of dragging my butt and not really getting active and doing things outdoors as much. Still just trying to stay on top of things, stay productive.
Good.
Yeah.
Joseph, how about you?
Not too much going on around here. A couple things today. Big deal for me. My daughter accepted Christ today. She's 8 years old.
Hey.
Congrats, dude.
And then second thing is right before we got on, my oldest son just checked the beehive, and so we started out. Real quick backstory: we started out with one nook last year. They've already split once this year. We've had a huge harvest. They're now 3 boxes deep on that hive. They've already filled it up. They're ready to split again, and I'm about to get a massive honey harvest.
Wow!
And along those lines, I just found out Mississippi changed their laws dealing with honey, and I can now sell online. So I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Well, you're having a better success than we did. Both of our hives fled. It was so disappointing.
Aw, bummer.
Yeah.
Well, I know where you can buy honey.
Couple of years ago, I lost 7 hives within a week.
Wow.
So I know that. That hold 70,000 bees.
70,000 bees is 7 hives? That sounds crazy.
Yeah, it's
70,000 per hive, right?
Mine were probably 10 to 20,000 per hive when I lost them.
Okay.
No, my neighbor sprayed his field, and within a week they were either gone or dead. Some of my hives were just full of dead bees. Some of the hives were just completely empty.
Oh man,
that's terrible. Well, at least this year you're rocking and buzzing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I went into our hive late last year. I had been away for a month, and I come back, and they were totally just like there was like moth larvae. What's going on? And then the second hive, after about 2 months, I went back, had the same situation. I was away for about a month, come back and open up, and once again just nothing inside, like a few dead bees inside. And it was weird. It was my first time doing it. I don't know what I did wrong, but neither hive were very strong. They were always just a little weak and never developed beyond a few frames, like 5 or 6 or 7 frames was all they ever filled out. And I'm sure I chalked it up to inexperience, and we're going to try again.
What breed were you growing?
I don't recall. It was something from the Dant. I'm guessing it was Italian. It was something from
Okay.
the Dant. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a local Dant outlet not far, like an hour away from here. I've got somebody in our church who is keeps them, and they're going to sell me some next.
Okay. Yeah, we struggled with our Italians. We switched to Russians. They're much more aggressive. I mean, they're seriously more aggressive bees, but their honey production is insane. The build rate is insane. And honestly, this is only the third time we've messed with the hive this year. You just kind of leave them alone, and they do their thing. But you got to wear a bee suit to mow around there. So I mean, they're pretty aggressive.
Wow. Now, me being new to it, I've just always been nervous about getting stung, and I always wear the full suit anytime I was going in. I just didn't want the thought of. I'm a little bit of a wussy as far as that goes.
I don't know. 5 bee stings kind of seems like too much.
Well, that's what I tell everyone. We've been beekeeping for 7 years now. You're gonna get stung. It doesn't matter what you do. You're gonna get stung sooner or later.
Yeah, I need to get over it.
What if you find out you're allergic, Chris?
Then I'll figure it out. I'll just. I don't have any allergies. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Then we'll just get rid of them, or sell the equipment or something. We'll figure it out.
Nice. My personal event. My son Milo and I went up to the city to visit my wife and my daughter, and just kind of pretended to be a family for a weekend. And it was pretty nice, even though my wife and I barely got to see each other. We got to sneak in half an hour of a show on Netflix for the whole weekend. But because like my son can't come into the NICU with my daughter. It's not allowed. And so somebody always needs to be with him. And so my wife and I are basically just like trading, like who's gonna go see Milo, who's gonna go see Lila, and blah blah blah. And so we still never really get to see each other that much, and it's someone always gets left out and behind, and so I don't know. But it was good. It's good for my wife to be able to spend like a whole weekend with Milo. So
excellent.
Okay,
yeah,
we got
So once you get that thing you were telling me about, will that settle it? Then you'll be able to come home.
In time.
Yeah.
In time. Yep.
All right.
How's it going, Warlord? Oh no, we got bad feedback.
Yeah, he's coming in badly.
Warlord, I'm gonna kick you out. Kick. Whoops. I didn't mean to do that part. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. Okay. I'm gonna apologize right now. Okay. Do you guys want to roll into the main topic?
Let's go.
Okay. So
I'm ready.
Okay. So you two. It's funny that you two showed up to this one specifically, because Chistopher, you've mentioned it several times on a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
And Joseph, you have talked about it in tweet form before, and so like the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum, the are we headed for a recession? Planned depression? Anything like that? Why don't you go ahead, Chris?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely the stated goals of these elitists that are highly connected with lots and lots of big names like the Prince of Wales and big companies, and now the two contenders to replace Boris Johnson in England are both working for working with this World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund, and watching people like George Gammon and Heresy Financial. They're describing a situation where the U.S. dollar is looking better than other currencies, and because it's more expensive than other currencies, the other emerging nations are having to pay off their debts, well, which they have in their debts are enumerated in American dollars. And so as the US dollar gets more expensive, they have to pay more money to pay off their own debts. And so they're going broker and broker and broker. And as a result, they're going to have to sell off their properties, their farmlands, their assets in these other nations. And then the World Economic Forum and the International Monetary Fund are the lenders of last resort. They can give money to these nations, and then promise these properties in exchange for them. So it's sort of a play that you can see happening where they're going to be able to snatch up properties and assets for just cheap, just pennies on the dollar. And so I wouldn't want to be in another country, and I don't know how well that's going to affect us here. But it's just such a dicey situation. I don't like what's happening. And so all of us are concerned about our food. That's why we're here doing farm stuff. And I just think that it's not just going to be for our health, it's going to be for our livelihood and everything. So are we going into Great Depression, Great Reset? Could be, if they don't handle it well. It could be a depression. Likely going to be a depression. There's just the fundamentals are so bad. The underlying fundamentals of everything that the economy is rolling on is just so bad that I see it being very precarious. That's where I'm at.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
That's where I'm at.
Warlord, do you have anything to say about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, spot on. And a lot of this is being run by the central bankers. Quite simply, they've inflated all of these currencies, the U.S. dollar especially, but everybody's currencies have been so inflated. But the U.S. dollar is going to take a particular hit because it is currently the world reserve currency. And if it loses that position as world reserve currency, and there are a lot of forces trying to do exactly that, including BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They're trying to come up with a reserve currency of their own to dethrone the US dollar. Should that happen, that's going to be a serious problem for those of us who mostly hold dollars. And that's going to cause massive inflation here, beyond what we're seeing in other countries right now. Right now, there's across-the-board inflation simply because everybody's been doing this modern monetary policy, which sells out the economies doing this practice for the promise of spending in the short run, but in the long run, the chickens do come home to roost. So in order to stave off the inflation and all of these bad practices, one of the things that a lot of these elites are trying to do is reset the economy, which is not beneficial to anybody but them. So, yeah, hence why we farm.
Yeah, the modern, well, what's the acronym? MMT, modern monetary theory. I think Cyprian calls it magic ta-da. Like their that just has like no. I mean, it's just like magic money. Like you want to talk about real magic money? I think I've mentioned before. Like it blows my mind how the world is ran. I do not understand how anything gets done with these dumb little pieces of paper we call money. It doesn't make any sense to me.
If I could touch on a couple things there. First, the new world reserve currency they're working on. I read an article yesterday that came out. China and Russia have come together to form a reserve currency based off of rare earth minerals. Whereas, the U.S. dollar is based off of oil, and oil has been the driving factor of the last century. Our modern technology requires what? It all requires rare earth minerals that China and Russia hold the monopoly on for the most part. So there's a definitely big threat there. Like I said, I read that on Bitcoin.com yesterday, and then I found another article today backing it up. And the second, back in May when the G20 got together, they agreed to work towards a goal of a World Bank digital currency to replace all currencies, to put everybody onto the same currency. Obviously I don't have to go into the downsides of that. Most people listening to this probably understand, but you're looking at not being able to spend your money the way you want to spend it because it's all digital, it's all controlled by computer systems, right? So think about like the red flag laws that they're trying to get passed everywhere. If you're deemed a threat, they can shut you out from buying ammunition or guns or whatever it is you're going for. Like they do in China with the social ranking system. I know they're trying to implement something in Canada. There's talks about something similar here. If you're a bad citizen, you can't go to the grocery store and buy food. So it's really coming down to control. You control the money, you control everything. You control the food, you control the masses.
Yeah, and one of the ways that China actually has begun to implement that, because they already do have a digital currency, and it's got an expiration date. So that pushes inflation, that pushes the demand for that currency. It causes it to flow out of the person's bank account because, well, if I don't spend it, I'm going to lose it. So I better buy something. So they go out and they immediately take that money and do that. And that ramps up their inflation to sort of push up their numbers and make their, because some inflation can help a government, so they want some inflation. So. Yeah, it's definitely about control.
Well,
so
yeah. Now, if you listen to Keynesian economics, money saved is money lost to the economy, essentially. That really doesn't work like that, but a lot of these people pushing these policies are Keynesian at heart. So their economics doesn't seem to fit real life at all. However, if people spend all of their money, then, because there's an expiration date on their money, which I think is a fantastically twisted idea, then we don't have to worry about people saving money. How do you save for retirement? I guess that doesn't really matter, since once you retire, you're no longer useful for the economy, anyways, right?
yeah,
but I wonder how it works for investment purposes.
Well, in China, they really have not. You can't invest in the stock market in China. You can't really put money into much place else than real estate. So there has been an incredible boom of Chinese real estate. It's so bad that they would buy houses and they would just like never get built, or no one would ever live in them. But this year, it has sort of fallen on itself. It started last year with the collapse of several over-leveraged, large, enormous real estate companies, and it's sort of tumbling down. There was tanks in the street for trying to protect a bank branch because people were trying to withdraw their cash from the bank branch, and they were getting riotous. And there's also long lists in China of people, and it's growing like daily, who are just refusing to pay their mortgage payment because the value is just plummeting. So what do they invest in? They're trying to push them into real estate, and it's just not working. It worked for a while. They got it nice and red hot, and now it's not really going. So, who knows? China is intimidating from our side of the pond, but they've got many of their own problems. And I heard a podcast, I forget who it was with, but he thinks that they're not going to last another 10 years. So he was drawing comparisons to the USSR in its final days, how it kind of had those death throes. So we might see a big mess in China.
That's interesting, that because I had heard that the 1800s belonged to the British. Like, think about the British Empire and its expansion in the 1800s, and the 1900s was like, Industrial Revolution for the United States. Well, someone, I can't remember who it was, otherwise I give him credit, that the 2000s is going to belong to China. Like, that they're hoping, from what I understand, which is like very little, that they're just basically spending money, just hand over fist, just building up all this infrastructure in hopes that it saves them, more or less. So I don't know if anybody here can speak to that at all.
Yeah, and that's the coming collapse of China, which I agree is probably in the next 10 years. They do a really good job of sugarcoating everything and painting themselves out to be this perfect country and everything's working out, right? But that's propaganda is the main tool of communism. So if you look at how much they've been spending on their military recently, they've really been building up. They've created the first deep water aircraft carrier, which, by the way, is still diesel powered. They're still 40 years behind America in tech in that department. But I really think it's not to show themselves on the world stage. Like, I think that's a front, like the Belt and Road Initiative that they got going on in Africa and South America. I think it's kind of a front to, again, for the propaganda purposes, to make China look bigger and more powerful than they actually are. Their military is geared towards home defense, and I think for the protection of the Communist Party. So all this investment into the military, very few of it has been for them to reach out across the world. Most of it has been at home defense mechanisms, because I think they're going to collapse. The people's going to start rising up, and the only hope the government has is to oppress them militarily.
Yeah, and they could still pull it off. I mean, we don't want to pronounce them dead, but they've just got a lot of headwinds. And they do have that, like you said, they have that control that they can take, which may work in their favor. But the beatings will continue until morale improves. I mean, there's only so much you can do with pure power and raw control. So we'll have to wait and watch and see.
I don't think they'll fail like the USSR failed. I think the USSR will still be around the day if they possess the technology that we have now for that mechanism of control and propaganda. But I think they're going to shrink as far as how big of a player they seem to be on the world stage now. I think we'll see that drastically reduce in the next 10, maybe 20 years.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going away.
Yeah, one case. Yeah, one case in point here. We all know that China covets Taiwan. Well, the United States is not in a position to stop them. There are political interests that are basically in the pocket of China. What's stopping them? seriously, what's stopping them from taking Taiwan? And the only answer that I could come up with is that if they devote military assets to trying to take over Taiwan, and if they should get any pushback whatsoever, they're going to lose the home front because their own population will rise up, and they cannot afford for that to happen. They've got to have their military at home.
I agree with that. You know, the skirmishes that went on last year between them and India cost them seriously in morale. And China's military just has no battle experience. They're all soldiers marching around on parade for the most part. And couldn't they do some damage? Yeah, I think they could do some damage if they really invested all their force. But like you said, that would be too dangerous to empty the homeland of all their military. And what little offensive military they do have is all geared towards Taiwan. But even then, it's not very impressive. If Taiwan puts up a resistance like Ukraine has with Russia, it would really, really hurt China.
How does China play into the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset?
They're very much along that line of thinking, but it's a good question because although they have that similar line of thinking, that control and technology, they are aligning themselves with Russia. So that is a good question. I'm not sure quite how it all is going to work out. I've been more thinking about, how does this affect me personally? It's interesting.
Right.
It's interesting nightly news, but how is it going to affect me personally? That I see them coming along, unless Russia and Putin is a foil for the globalists to, make it appear like he's against them, but that he's actually in the side working for them. The whole thing is twisted, and it just gets me tied up in knots.
Same.
Yeah.
I actually think the breakdown
as far as
go ahead, Warlord.
He's just on a little bit of a delay. Go ahead, Warlord.
Oh, if I were Xi Jinping and I had essentially ultimate power within China, as long as the people don't revolt too much, would I accept being second place to a global power that might tell me what to do? I don't think so. No, Xi Jinping is a smug character if I've ever seen one, and he likes where he sits at the top.
I was just going to say, I see a breakdown of world politics being much like 1981. And, you had the three different factions controlling the world at that point, and you had these fake wars against each other and these fake enemies, all for the point of controlling the population and the masses. And we've kind of seen that come out already with the jab, and that being forced on people, kind of a bit of medical tyranny. I don't want to say anything that might get your show flagged, but
that'd be great. Badge of honor.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. I see 2, maybe 3 different economic regions of the world, and they're going to always be battling for economic power with each other. And it's going to be, Russia and China leading one side of the battle, and you're going to have Europe, United States, the whole West leading the other side of it.
Yeah, both of you guys said something that triggered a memory of something I heard. I listened to a lot of podcasts on economics, and one of them said, what we're really going to be seeing is not an alignment at the top, but various warlord factions at the top. Like, yeah, we all want to control the world, and we all want to do it Chinese style with social credit system. We want to make sure you eat bugs and you'll be happy. But I want to really run this show myself. Xi Jinping or Klaus Schwab. I want to really be the one that calls the shots here. And so you're really not necessarily going to see in a large alignment. We could be seeing mafia bosses, trying to one up each other.
That'd be
Alliance.
interesting to watch and suck to be involved in.
Yeah, because all we get are the bugs.
That's true.
Alliances, as long as it's beneficial, and then a bunch of backstabbing in the background.
Got it. That's right. Yeah, that's plausible. I wish I could tell you half of the stuff I hear where I hear it, but I just watch a lot of stuff. So
Just say you made it up, like you came up with it.
okay, no, I'm not that smart.
Speaking of eating bugs, I mean, we all homestead here. We all grow stuff. Why don't we just grow our own bugs and sell them to people that eat the bugs? I mean, let's profit off that. Why not?
It's not a bad idea. I imagine all of us are prepper minded, survival minded, and the thought has crossed my mind more than once to, if I absolutely must, I will do that. And I'm not. That's like the last option, but if I must, I will do that.
I'm gonna sell the best bugs in my valley.
Yeah, I'm not against eating bugs. I'm against eating bugs that they process and feed to me.
Right.
Yeah, is this even a bug? What is this?
Yeah.
Sawdust?
Here, if I mean, I see that there's now like cricket flour and all of this other stuff. How do they harvest those? Do they use a cricket bat?
They could. I bet they use like a butterfly net. So I saw something interesting came up a couple days ago on Twitter, and I'm gonna see if I can share this really quick. I bet nobody else but me saw this. Okay, share screen. Here we go. Nope, wrong one. This one. Okay, so financial stress index. Values below zero suggest below average financial market stress, while zero is above. While values above zero suggest above average financial market stress. Currently, negative 101.2. So what I said was, so obviously you can see the peaks at 2008, 2009, and then it peaked in 2020 there. And Barnabas said, "Seems not right." And I said, "I know what you mean, but it makes you think if all this FUD with inflation and blah 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 is a big nothing burger, because we're all just waiting for." I mean, not just waiting, we're preparing, but honestly, we're all kind of like holding our breath, like, what's going to happen? When's it going to happen? You know what I'm talking about? Like, what if it's nothing?
Or what if it's actually deflation? That would actually be. I'm more intimidated by deflation than inflation. Well, I say, well, the Fed can print money. Maybe. I listen to a lot of people and they have different various competing ideas about it, and I wish I could regurgitate their reasoning, but one of the ways they say this is, see if I can say it correctly, is that you can't make people spend money, and so deflation. I don't being prepper minded, I'm always taking account any possibility, so.
My motto is expect the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I live in every aspect of it, whether it's economy or supply chain issues we got going on now. I prepare for the worst, and if I spend thousands of hours and thousands of dollars preparing for something that never happens, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And I actually really hope I've wasted my time and money, to be honest.
Well, whether it's hyperinflation, whether it's deflation, both are symptoms, or stagflation. They're all symptoms of a sick system that is dying, and it's kicking, and it's trying to, So.
I mean, everything's based on cycles, right? So are we due for another recession or depression, or I mean, is that even a thing? Or nah, it's not needed for a healthy economy, blah, blah, whatever. I don't know.
I think we're due for it only for, I don't know whether it's like the changing of the moon or anything, 100 years it has to happen. It's more of just the way human beings grow and work. And you know that saying, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. So we go in that cycle over and over.
Speaking about the 100 years thing, if you go back and look at the early 1900s, the early 2000s here kind of parallel in between the pandemic and war and financial issues of the economy. Maybe it is a cycle. Maybe 20 years from now we are going to have another Black Monday and stock market crashes and.
Yeah.
That would be something. It's exactly like it's planned to a T. Like, oh, we'll just copy and paste.
Well, if you go back to the 1800s, you see it there too. You had the War of 1812. You had the tuberculosis pandemic going on. It's kind of a cycle. Halfway through the century, we had the American Civil War. Halfway through the 19th century, we had World War II. So there's a little bit of a scary cycle there. It doesn't mirror itself exactly, but a lot of the same factors seem to play out century after century.
Well, I thought Warlord was going to say something.
Now,
there he is.
Yeah, there is a certain. There is a certain cycle to the economy, which is one of the reasons why the government, at least the U.S. government, has tried to manage the economy more closely. The problem is that the more the U.S. government tries to manage the American economy, the more disastrous these downturns become. The idea was to make them softer and lessen the impacts, but it has done anything but that. The people in government don't understand what it takes to run a good economy. They just don't. And likewise, when should Klaus Schwab and George Soros and their friends succeed in this plan to create their idyllic utopia, it's going to be monstrous, because they have these wild ideas of what everybody wants. But let's face it, the best the best person to choose what you buy is you. And that's going to be the number one market force that generates success. No government can make those decisions for us. No bunch of bankers can make those decisions. Only we can successfully run an economy, and that's each of us individually on our own.
That's 7 billion individual economies. We got a quote here from To Catch a Farm. I think they keep trying to stop natural cycles making things worse. Wow, can't talk. 2008. I kind of agree. Or is it they tried to stop it, or is it like trying to hold sand? I don't know. Or to catch sand, whatever the term is. What do you guys think?
See, I have my own little conspiracy theory.
Let's hear it.
About the elites, and this is what it boils down to, is ego. I honestly think they feel so highly about themselves and their own opinions that they just assume everybody agrees with them, and what they think is right is what's right for everybody. Nobody's ever asked me what's right for me. No one's ever going to ask me. Nobody high up's ever going to ask me what's right for me. We talked about when you interviewed me. I've been home for 2 years working solely from the farm. I just want to be left alone. I want to make some income. I want to take care of my family and just live my life at peace. They don't want that for me, and they don't think that I really want that. So I think there's a lot of ego involved. Just really they just think high of themselves, because they all kind of share the same opinions, but they're viewing the world from an elite platform of wealth and power. And trying to apply that to those of us who don't care about wealth or power.
Oh, Matt, I want to go back to the question that you asked. Should we be growing these things? That's a tough call, and we might know that more for sure in 10 years or so when bug cricket are all the rage and they're a hot item and we can start considering it. But for the immediate future, I'm thinking about like not necessarily human food, but animal food. Like our chickens just love black soldier fly larvae, and one of the future things I'm hoping to build is a black soldier fly larvae bin. You throw in your scraps for the larvae to eat. They, by nature, are inclined to climb a little ramp and go into a little container so that you're collecting these larvae. And then when it's time for the chickens to come in, you ring the bell, ding, open the bottom of the bin and drop out the larvae, and then here come the chickens. So starting to think about ways about harnessing the power of insects more and more and more for our animals that we could consume healthy. Man, those chickens will just be very healthy and good tasting on bugs and things like that, little critters. Taking permaculture principles and catching June bugs and putting the plant that the June bugs like right over the chicken pen so that they drop down. Things like that. So Talcatcha said anything that supplement feed costs is a good idea. And how far can we take that? I mean, I know chickens are omnivorous and they tend to like bugs. How far can they go? Can you give them all of their feed on that? That'd be interesting to think about.
So I teach an online class from time to time, and one thing I talked about actually is this topic with the soldier flies. They're phenomenal on a compost. They do wonders for your compost. So what we do, once we get a good collection of them going, I turn the chickens loose on the compost. I don't have the fancy barrels that you spin and turn and everything, right? I just have the old-fashioned pile. Chickens get in there. They love the soldier flies. They scratch up the compost. They turn it. They break it down, and it's really beneficial. But I have been looking into vermiculture this year. I've been doing a lot of studying of vermiculture, raising worms. Also good for the chickens, and we all know the benefit of worm castings for the garden, right? So it's definitely something to look into. I think is raising insects, raising worms, using that as a feed supplement for your chickens.
And you're going to get a lot of support from a government who wants you to be doing that. So you're not going to get regulations breathing down your neck. You're going to get it's going to be a very an environment that promotes that kind of agriculture. So
you could just say that you're growing bugs for people to eat, and like, whoops, my chickens got to them.
They keep doing that. I don't know what's going on.
I've got another comment we can read here. Hey guys, I tried to explain to my children that our economy is like those dancing balloon guys. We pump money into it and it inflates, but then it starts to immediately deflate, so more air is needed. Thanks, Squintin Quintin. That's kind of funny. I mean, that's a pretty simple analogy, and for a child to understand. What do you guys think about that? How do you explain the economy or inflation to a child?
You could go with the million bottle caps story. You have an island with a million bottle caps, and they use the bottle caps. Okay, I've heard this years ago, so I'm probably not going to get it right. But you had a million bottle caps on an island, and they use that to trade back and forth for their goods and services and things like that. And then one day, an enterprising lad flies in with another million bottle caps, and suddenly, you ask the child, what happens when you do that? So, now you got twice as many available on the island, and they start to circulate faster and faster. Did everyone get richer? No, they just change the number. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that one too.
I think it was a DuckTales episode actually. So you can pull up the DuckTales episode. Hey, this is what I watched as a kid, and it explains inflation.
We've got another. This one's interesting for me too. So Catch a Farm, Klaus and Company are a bunch of opportunistic vultures. So didn't Klaus Schwab write like what the hell is that book? Like the Fourth Industrial something or the something book?
I think he did, yeah.
And so all of a sudden, because he wrote this book, he just gets to like decide what's going to happen next, and like everyone that can actually make these changes happen like just is on board with this book and his plan, and that never made any sense to me either. Like, what does this a-hole get to decide what we're all doing all of a sudden? Like, who was he before anything, Yeah,
you're correct. He did write that book, but he's been on the WEF's chairman for more than 50 years. So he's like well connected. They listen to him, they like him, they respect him, they trust him. They think he's got these beautiful ideas, and so they're following him. They're following him. He's the Pied Piper of that. So.
WEF like the Bilderberg group. It's just
all one has to understand. Yeah, all one has to do to understand how opportunistic these people can be. Take a look at one of the top WEF guys, George Soros. The guy has destroyed economies by causing revolutions and shorting the currencies of those countries. And he's caused devastation. He's wanted in multiple countries for doing all kinds of awful things. But here he is, richer than Croesus, and living safely in, I guess, New York area. But he's an influential member of the World Economic Forum, and he has created nothing but nonprofit organizations, and he's a self-made billionaire.
Didn't he get his start working with the Nazis?
His dad did.
Yes, his dad.
Okay, I know I read something along those lines.
Yeah, and of course they want to hide that, but that's true.
Yeah, George Soros was a teenager during World War II, and he would evict people from their homes. It would not be surprising to me if that's how he got some of his seed investment. But that would be speculation on my part. I've seen interviews where he spoke of his time working with the Nazis as one of the best times of his life. So,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
That's hilarious.
So these globalists, they're going to globalize. They're going to do what they're going to do. And the question in my mind is always like, how do I cope with this? And one of the thoughts I had was, all right, so they want to eliminate fossil fuel use or reduce it. Get everybody riding trains and I envision a not too distant future where the price of fuel, the price of parts, spare parts, the licenses, the taxes, and the driver's license and the insurance, all way too expensive for ordinary Joes like us. We will ride electric Ubers, and we will be happy. And so, what do you do when you're living in the country and suddenly your dually diesel pickup truck, it doesn't matter if you can make your own fuel, you can't afford the driver's license. What if they price that out of your range? And so I sort of puzzled on that for a while, and I talked to my wife and I said, we're not leaving the country. I don't care what it is, we're not leaving the country. So we're about 10 miles from a city where we can get groceries. I have a bicycle, I have off-grid solar, I have a lithium battery, and I have a trailer. I would make, if it came to it, I would make an electric horse. Or you take the off-grid solar, you charge the lithium battery, put it on the trailer, you put a little motor on the trailer. 1 horsepower motor is perfectly legal. There'd be nothing they could get me on. I would pass through every checkpoint, and I'd be able to get to town, carry back a couple 100 pounds worth of supplies and groceries. So we're thinking about these globalists, and it's annoying what they're doing, but we've got to also be thinking about, when their plans, how are we going to cope with that? How are we going to compensate for that? How are we going to work with that? They might make they would never confiscate your guns perhaps, but they might make using your guns onerous. So you have to have license, and you have to have insurance. And if you shoot somebody without this, they'll know. And if this police officer was scheduled to go to your house, so they know that you were the last person to see this officer. There's a number of ways that they could make, using guns a challenge. Big businesses, Monsanto and Walmart, and discouraging mom and pop, that would push people out of the country. Oh, here's another one. If you're in the country and the city infrastructure, or the electrical infrastructure in the city is in good shape, but the rural electrical infrastructure is poor, you're going to see a brightly lit city off in the distance, and you're in the dark. I think a lot of people out here in the country would pack it up and say, I've had it. I'm not doing that. They're going to go into the country. So start to think about the things that they're going to demand from us, and start to think about those ways in which you could potentially work around them.
Well, it's kind of funny you talk about that. I tweet quite often about the only thing that's going to save the environment, the climate change crisis, all that, the fuel, the energy crisis that's coming is going back to pre-industrial revolution technology. And people laugh when I tweet that, and I'm actually kind of serious. So you're talking about rural folk being in the dark. I'd be fine with that. It's a fantastic thing. But I say all that to say this. I seen an article the other day that a company in Sweden, I believe, they've created a cargo ship that is wind powered, and it's just a massive sailboat. It looks like what they were selling around in the 1800s, right? And just more modern looking, right? Not windy cable sails. So I think it's kind of funny. I think we are going to end up going back to some of that pre-industrial technology, and I think we're going to have to, or we're going to have to figure out a way to incorporate modern tech into a more old-fashioned way, like the electric horse thing you're talking about. I think the only course going forward might be to try to marry the two, modern tech and old tech, together.
Yeah, and survivalists and preppers cope. That's the way and homesteaders, they are flexible and they cope. That's how we survive. That's how we make it through.
It's 2022, and I light my living room at night with an oil lamp. It's already a practice for me, and part of that is my prepping mentality.
Yeah.
I'm used to living a certain way. If I need to turn the light on, I got the light switch. I can turn the light on. But if I ever lose power, and being in hurricane country, that's not abnormal, especially this time of year. It's nothing for us to live 4, 5, 6 days without electricity. It's just because it's been practice, and any good prepper is going to practice what they prep. You can have all the strategy and all the plans and all the gear and everything else you want, but if you don't practice using it, it's really gonna hurt trying to come across that learning curve when it comes time to use it.
Oh yeah, like when I was supposed to do the interview with Warlord, I lost power half an hour beforehand. And because I'm a bad prepper, I didn't check my generator every month. And I was scrambling right before the interview to run off an inverter off battery off my truck, and it worked. It failed once during the interview, but I got it back up and running, and it was totally fine. And I'd never actually used that inverter before, so I was like, "Yeah, this is how it works." It's fine. But I had it. That was the thing. I had it.
Yeah, we're all going to find that we have holes, and we're going to, and we're just going to cope. We're going to, the first time the balloon goes up, it's not going to be pretty, and we'll oh crap, and then we'll have that opportunity the next day to do it right. So.
Yeah, I don't think it matters how much a person preps and how much they practice their preps. If everything does happen, if the crap does hit the fan at some point, it's going to take all of us a moment to adapt and overcome the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're coming close to time here. What do you guys want to talk about or cover that we didn't already cover, or you wanted to expand on? Anybody? I got some messages here if we want to talk about that.
Can't think of anything.
Quinton. I actually haven't even pre-read this, so hopefully it's appropriate. Absolutely. Our living room lights and charging station is 12 volt. We use it every day. Solar panels hanging out their windows to charge their personal battery banks. They like it. That's super cool. That's really awesome.
They like it, and they're learning how important it is. So it's a 2-for-1.
Dude.
When you can make it fun for your kids, it just makes it that much easier.
Yeah, we go car camping any opportunity we can, which is pretty primitive. So
that's true. But you learn to deal with it.
Yeah, being a medievalist at heart, a lot of this stuff just comes so naturally to me. Getting away from devices and so on. But charging with solar panels is great until the solar panels fail. Hopefully that's 20 plus years down the road and some return to this kind of normalcy happens, but no guarantees. The downside of prepping is that what we do staves off loss of technologies and all of that. But what we need to do is we need to also come up with a plan for the long term that will last in the long term, not batteries and solar panels, but maybe bringing back some, use of draft animals for farming and transportation and such. That is a sustainable technology.
Yeah, that's assuming you can get horses in a post-Great Reset world. I mean, you see how they hate cow farts. So I'm wondering how well we will be able to do horses or not, or if they just have to be extremely secretive about using them. Not sure. We'll have to wait and see.
I think Warlord made a great point about so many people I know, and I use solar panels too, don't get me wrong, but there may come a point in time where you've adapted to use all this technology and now it's not available. Solar panels will fail. Wind turbines will fail. It's mechanical. Anything mechanical is going to fail. Here at my house, we do incorporate technology into what we do a lot, but we also try to, at some point in the season, use manual tools to keep those skills alive and going, because you just never know when you're going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to replace what breaks down.
Yep. And that's where your bushcraft is going to be incredible. I love Dave Canterbury, watching him. Me and the boys watch with them. So
Yeah, that's what we don't. Most preppers have bug out bags. We don't have bug out bags. We have bushcraft bags. There's no MREs. There's no dehydrated foods. It's everything you need to actually live in the woods. If it comes down to living in the woods, we're surrounded by national forest here.
Yeah, and Canterbury.
So,
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I think bushcraft skills is far and beyond a greater prep than all the prepper gear that you can possibly get.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did a cool talk. I'll pull up the link and send it to Matt on the tool centered nature of a bushcraft, where he's talking about metal, and you go anywhere in the woods and you find an old car. You've got metal you can work with for a long time to make all kinds of great tools. So I'll pull that talk. I've seen it more than once, and I thought it was really fascinating.
All right, that was a good talk. Last comment here. This guy Quinton came in the middle. I invested bulk in seed for the next year, but it's good. Not really available these days. Sorghum, buckwheat, loads of microgreen seeds. Not familiar with eating buckwheat. So nice. Good job, Squinton. So you guys want to go around and plug your stuff? Chris, do you want to go first?
Yeah, SecureCoop.com, and don't forget the coupon FarmHopLife rocks. And I'm hoping to come out with the first product later on this year.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
He's hustling. He's doing tons of work.
Trying.
Lots of money invested. Padre, go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me on smith-homestead.com. What we sell is all homemade, handcrafted products, all chemical-free, soaps, candles, things like that. Just things to make life a little bit more pleasant without all the chemicals.
Awesome. Warlord, I know you got tons of stuff to sell.
I just wanted to throw a shout out to that last comment. Buckwheat pancakes. Just go with the buckwheat pancakes. That's all you can really do with buckwheat that's really particularly good. I don't really have anything to plug per se. I just come out to say hello to everybody and throw a few words around and see what's up. My Twitter tag is Oglibit Varnicore. Say that 3 times, you'll never be able to say obligate carnivore again. So Oglibit Varnicore.
Carnicore? Did I get it wrong?
Oglibit. Yeah. There should be a Varnicore on there, but I think so. I don't remember.
Okay, we'll figure it out later.
Okay, that's not important.
Okay, well, I appreciate everybody watching, listening. I appreciate you guys being here and joining me tonight. And no idea what we're going to talk about next week. We'll figure it out. I have an idea. We'll talk about it. So, See you next week.
Been fun.